All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I might say good evening as well. It's over here in South Africa. It's already getting dark. I want to welcome everyone to the OK English live stream. I'm Jaco, and today we are going to talk about sports. Now, there's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today. I'm really excited to share this presentation with you guys. Also, I'm going to, as I go through the slides, I'm going to show you guys some vocabulary, again, as with the previous live streams that I did. And also, I'm going to ask you guys some questions as well. We've got a listener here, Miss Miot. I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Welcome to the stream. I'm glad you can join us on Friday. I know it's weekend. You guys are probably getting ready to take a rest or maybe travel somewhere for the weekend. So everyone who's joining, I want to thank you very much. And also everyone who will be watching this live stream on our Facebook page. We've got another person joining. It's Paula. Hi, Paula, one of my students. Welcome, guys. We are talking about sports today, as you can see on the first slide. And let's begin. Okay. So, in my opinion, we cannot talk about sports without talking about the Olympic Games. I think most people in the world know about the Olympic Games. It's such a huge, popular, amazing event, sporting event. I remember watching it really often when I was younger, probably every 4 years, when whenever it broadcasted on television. And some of the things that I think about when we talk about the Olympics, I immediately think about gymnastics. I think about sports like weightlifting. I think about athletics or track and field, javelin, discus, 100-meter dash, 200 meters, 400 meters, all those sports. Also judo. But for me, I think the sport that kind of stands out in the Olympics is for sure gymnastics. It's something that you don't see often. The people jump around like almost like superheroes in a way. And not only the gymnasts, but I think that a lot of the Olympic athletes are amazingly talented, and it's awesome to be able to celebrate sports in such a way. Now, I wrote there on the slides on the left side, iconic people who are really famous in the Olympics. Now, we're going to look at some other iconic people as well as we progress with the presentation. In the Olympics, of course, there are too many Olympic icons to mention because the Olympic Games has been going on for such a long time. We've got another student here or another listener, Barbara. Welcome. So let's look at the left side. I wrote some things down there, some interesting facts about the Olympics. So the modern Olympic Games was first held on April 6th in 1896. It was inspired by the ancient Olympic Games, which was held in Olympia in Greece from the 8th century BC until the 4th century CE, or Common Era. That is more than 2,000 years ago, guys. That's really amazing. However, of course, the ancient Olympic Games stopped in the 4th century, but then it started again. So another interesting fact about the Olympics is back in 1896, the year when the modern Olympic Games started, only 14 countries competed, which is not a lot. It's not that many. However, today there are 206 countries which that take part in the Summer Olympics. Now, I only mentioned the Summer Olympics here. Of course, there's a whole another awesome Winter Olympics as well. But I think the Summer Olympics is the more popular one, or maybe not the more popular one, but the one that is watched by more people around the world. So that's we cannot start our conversation about sports without mentioning the Olympics. So let's go on to the next slide, and let's see. We have a question here. So that's a question from me to you guys. Do you guys have a favorite Olympic sport? Actually, I will write it here in the chat. Do you have a favorite Olympic sport? And if you do, which one is it? What kind of sport is it? What kind of Olympic sport do you like to watch most? All right. So you guys can see the next slide. Of course, the FIFA World Cup is another very, very big sporting event. It's probably one of the most watched sporting events in the world. And something that's really interesting is the Football World Cup, or the FIFA World Cup, as we call it as well, was held in South Africa, in my country, in the capital city of Cape Town, back in 2010. I think I wrote it down there as well. Now, who are some iconic football players or football stars? On the top left, in the top left corner, we have Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, he's really, really famous. He's a player in modern times. Then next to him, we have Pele, from Brazil, I believe. He was also really famous, iconic football player. He's regarded as one of the best in the world. And then on the right side, we have Lionel Messi. Of course, guys, Lionel Messi is so famous. You can see him in advertisements. You can see him on TV, everywhere. I'm not sure if he's played in movies before. If he has, and you know what movie it is, please leave a comment. So that's the FIFA World Cup, and I have to confess that I'm not the biggest football fan myself. Here in South Africa, as you guys will see, we have different kinds of sports that are famous, such as rugby, which we will be taking a look at shortly. But whenever the World Cup, or the FIFA World Cup happens every couple of years, I become a football fan, and one of my favorite teams, or international football teams, are Argentina I like Argentina. I like Brazil, the Brazilian team. And I also like the Dutch team, just because of their orange clothes, or their orange jerseys. It looks really bright. It's a really nice color. I really like it. So that is, of course, the FIFA World Cup, and some iconic players, some famous players: Cristiano Ronaldo, Pele, and Lionel Messi. So I've got a question for you guys. Oh, and I forgot to mention the FIFA World Cup is happening this year, I believe, in November, in the country of Qatar. And hello, Joanna, welcome. We're talking about sports. So, yeah, I've got a question for you guys. You guys that will be listening in the coming days or the coming weeks. Which country will you be cheering for during the FIFA World Cup this year? My favorites are Argentina, Brazil, and Holland, or the Netherlands, the Dutch team. Right. Okay, so we have some vocab as well. These words are useful when we want to describe sports, of course. We can use them to talk about sports, different words used in different sports. And the first one at the top, Joanna asks, is Poland in FIFA? Joanna, I've got no idea. I just mentioned before, just a few moments ago, that I don't really watch football that often. I just cheer for the teams, for certain teams when it's World Cup. So I don't know if Poland is in the World Cup. I think they probably are, because South Africa is also in the World Cup, and our international team is okay, but not that great. So right, the first vocab word, excuse me, the first vocab word is the word match. And we can think of a match as a single game of a certain kind of sport, whether it be football, rugby, or tennis. So we say the players are playing a football match, or a rugby match, or a tennis match. Then the next vocab word is court. And we can think of this as an area where people play a certain sport. A tennis court, for example, a basketball court. And what else? What other courts are there? I think football court, but then it will be an indoor area. I wrote down there, a court is mostly inside, made of concrete and sometimes wood as well, like a basketball court is, when it's on the inside, indoors. Then the next one, the next vocab word is field. Like again, it's an area where a sport is played, and I would say a field is mostly outside. Mostly, it's got grass, a grass surface, and there are probably indoor fields as well. I'm thinking, if the FIFA World Cup is happening in Qatar, where it's super hot, then they might have some indoor arenas or indoor fields. Maybe, I hope so, for the players. Yeah, so a field, mostly outside with a grass surface, and football is played on a field, rugby is played on a field, hockey is played on a field, cricket is also played on a field. So the next one, the next vocab word is, we've got a comment there from Joanna. Oh, Joanna, the heat in Qatar. Exactly, I agree. I hope they are playing indoors for real, because the heat is intense, to say the least. Um, I hope for their sake it's indoors, or maybe Qatar can put some air conditioners outside or something. I don't know. Right. The next vocab word, guys, is racket. Now, oh, we've got another listener, Katerina. She says, yes, we are. Welcome, Katerina. We're talking about sports. Thanks for joining. The next vocab word on the left is racket. And I would explain racket as something you use with one hand to hit a ball. For example, a tennis ball or maybe other kinds of sports. I've got a question for you guys about rackets. Um, so yeah, we play with a tennis racket and you hold it in one hand. And the next item is also a bat, also something that you use to hit a ball. However, a bat you hold with two hands, so I think that's the difference between a bat and a racket. One you hold with two hands, a bat, and a racket you only hold with one hand. Joanna says, I'll be supporting Poland then, but we'll be cheering for Germany too. Yes. Germany is a great team. They always make it to the last couple of rounds. They're a really good team. I'm cheering for Argentina, Brazil, and Holland, the Netherlands. So, all right, the vocab word, individual. Now, the way to think about individual is one person. And the reason I included that here is a lot of sports are individual sports. For example, tennis. You can play tennis in a team as well. You call that doubles. However, tennis mostly is individual, where you play by yourself against one person. That brings us to the next vocab word, which is opponent. And opponent is the person you are playing against. So if I'm playing tennis, my opponent is the person on the other side of the net. Then lastly, the final vocab word is board. And as you guys will see, we're going to talk about different board sports. Um, skateboards, surf, you get surfboards and you get snowboards. And how do we explain the word board? It's something you can stand on perhaps, and you use it to ride on some kind of surface, whether it's in the street or on water, on snow perhaps. So that's the vocab words. So now we can continue and check out some awesome sports. I've got a question for you guys. Did you play any sports in school? And what was it? If you played any sports in school, I'm going to share some sports that I played in school. Um, what sports did you play? What was your favorite sport that you played growing up? All right. So the first sport that I played, this was literally actually the first sport that I played, is tennis. and I started playing or I played tennis for the first time when I was 3 or 4, I think. Played tennis throughout primary school. Um, Iconic people in the sport are Serena Williams and Roger Federer. They are considered as some of the greatest players of all time. An interesting fact about tennis is the longest tennis match played in Wimbledon, I believe, went on for 11 hours. Now, they didn't play for 11 hours straight. Apparently, according to the internet, they broke up the match into 3 days, but when put together, the time equaled 11 hours, which is just crazy. I wouldn't want to play tennis for 11 hours. That sounds intense. Joanna says she didn't play sports. Well, yeah, a lot of people don't like sports. A lot of people focus on studying. My family were really into sports, so I kind of they said, "Well, you got to play sports." um, Katarina says, "I didn't like almost any of it. I was avoiding PE all the time." That's really interesting. She says she avoided PE. Katerina, you know what? I avoided PE too because the things, even though I liked sports, PE in school was just like, it's such a hassle. You have to take off, put on like sports clothes, and then you're all sweaty and stuff, and you have to go back to class. There weren't showers at our school, so um, you were like sweaty and stuff after PE. So I avoided it in high school where I could. I didn't like it. However, I played sports after school most of the time. That was the fun sports for me. So, right, which other sports did I play in school? All right, there's a question for you guys. Um, do you have favorite tennis players? Do you watch Wimbledon? Who is a tennis icon for you? Joanna says she was shy playing sports with boys. At my school, the boys played by themselves, like I mean PE now. So we had PE by ourselves, and the girls had their own PE class. I also, if we had to do PE with girls, I think I think some guys would run away because they were so shy. Um, so yeah, PE in school was not fun. That's for sure. Right, guys. BMX. This is something that I really enjoyed when I was young. It I wouldn't even say that I regard it as a sport, really. For me, it was like just a hobby. Um, I did it in my free time, during the evenings, on weekends. BMXing is really awesome. Um, I still love it. It just gets more and more extreme as the years go on. However, during the late 90s and the early 2000s, when I was uh, starting to become a teenager, I really got into BMXing. I actually broke my arm riding BMX. That was not very fun, but I still continued after that because I loved it. Katarina says BMX is too extreme. It is very extreme, but she loves cycling too. Yes. I don't BMX anymore. It's too extreme for me. I'm getting old. I just enjoy cycling now. It's safer, of course. Mountain biking. So, an interesting thing about BMX is there are three we can say, main types of BMX. The first one is street riding, which I liked because we didn't really have a lot of BMX parks. So we would just ride in the streets and like jump over some sidewalks and like make our own ramps and things like that and fall down and everything. Um, so there's street riding, there is vert riding. And if you guys look at the picture, um, the guy sitting on the BMX there, his name is Matt Hoffman, and all of those pictures are of him as well when he was younger. I love the old pictures, the black and white pictures. It's awesome. Um, and he was a vert rider. Now, what is vert? We will see this again when we talk about skateboarding. Spoiler. Um, Vert riding is the big wooden ramp that is also called a half pipe, and it's made of wood, and it goes like this. And the rider goes up and does a trick and comes down and goes up and does a trick again. It looks really cool. They're flying through the air. And then the third kind of category of BMXing is dirt jumping, which the rider rides. They jump on a big ramp made of dirt, which dirt jumping, of course, and then they do a couple of tricks. There's sometimes a dirt obstacle course with different size jumps that they have to complete, and then they get a score for that as well. Welcome, Malgorzata. Very welcome. Always great to see you here. And that's it about BMX, guys. Matt Hoffman is the most iconic BMXer I would see. Um, I would say he's very famous and he helped popularize the sport as well. Next, we have skateboarding. This is something that I didn't do as often as BMXing. However, many of my friends were really good at skateboarding. I did it as well. I had a skateboard. I could just barely jump and I couldn't do any flip tricks or kick flips or heel flips or grinds or things like that. My friends could. Um, but I just loved the influence of skateboarding on our culture in a way. I believe it had a very big impact on fashion. A lot of people who don't even ride skateboard wear skateboard brands. Like the brand Vans is a very famous and big skateboard brand. Um, there are other brands as well. DC. A lot of people wear DC shoes. It's a skateboard shoe. Osiris, America. I don't even know if they still exist. Birdhouse. Those are different kinds of brands. But let's look at some iconic people, guys. In the world of skateboarding, there are two guys that really, in my opinion, are the icons of skateboarding. And if you Google these two guys, their names are Rodney Mullen. Rodney is on the left side at the top, and Tony Hawk is the taller guy. And they are the two legends, I would say, of skateboarding. If it wasn't for them, modern skateboarding would not even exist because Tony Hawk, the tall guy, he helped make the half pipe, the vert ramp. He helped popularize that to a younger audience. However, Rodney Mullen, the guy on the left, he is kind of known as the inventor of modern skateboarding, modern street skateboarding. And if you look at the two pictures on the right side of the young guy, that's also Rodney Mullen, way back in the 80s or something, back in the 80s or maybe the 90s. And if you look very closely, he's still riding on a flat skateboard. Back then, a skateboard didn't go up like it does today. And he was actually the guy that created or helped create the modern skateboard. So it goes up like this. If you look at I don't know if you guys have seen a skateboard, but he basically he created modern street skating as we know it today. Him and Tony Hawk. Now, skateboarders don't. Some skateboarders don't consider skateboarding to be a sport even. Some of them might get angry when you say skateboarding is a sport because, in a way, skateboarding was a form of rebellion, a way to rebel against authority. And for them, sport is an authority. They didn't want anything to do with the world of sports. However, these days, skateboarding is part of the Olympics. Um, but back in the day, it was kind of like an anti-authority movement in a way. Another interesting fact about skateboarding is that more than half of all skateboarders in America live in California, in the state of California. That's like a hotspot for skateboarders. So let's check out the next slide. And now we jump from one thing, skateboarding, to a very different, more organized form of sport. But this is one that I played as a kid as well. Rugby. Rugby is South Africa's national sport. Um, an iconic person is the guy at the top that you can see. His name is Victor Matfield. He is the former captain of our team, and our team is called the Springboks. So he's the former captain of the Springboks. The picture on the bottom, you can see the current rugby team of South Africa. And an interesting thing about rugby, I already mentioned it actually. Joanna asks, do you know the Irish version of rugby? No, I don't. I know the Australian version where it's completely different rules. I don't know the Irish version though. How is that different from, do they have different rules? I'm sure they do. I would love to know. So, oh yes, I already mentioned. Joanna says it's very violent. I'll check it out. um, yeah, that's rugby, and it's big in South Africa. It's not as violent. There are many rules to keep it non-violent. Although it's a pretty aggressive sport. You run into other people and stuff. You have to get the ball from other people. So yeah. And I've got a question for you guys there. What's the national sport of your country, of the country where you are now? So I know many of you guys are in Germany, the Netherlands, perhaps, maybe France or Spain. What's the national sport of that country where you are now? Right, so here's another sport that I played. I have to admit, cricket is not one of my favorites. I did play it. We play it in the summertime in South Africa. South Africa is a very strong cricket country. I think we are third in the world, if I remember correctly. Joanna says Portugal football. Oh yeah, of course. Football is I think it's in most of Europe, Football would maybe be the national sport. It's one of the biggest in the world, if not the biggest. So two famous cricket players, as you can see in the pictures, are Brian Lara at the top. He's from Trinidad, but he played for different countries. I'm not sure if he played for his own country or if he played for Australia. I'm sure he played for Australia. And then we have Sachin Tendulkar at the bottom. He's from India. These guys are regarded as two of the best. And India, for those of you who don't know, India is a very strong cricket country. They are one of the best in the world. I think they are number two. Yes, Australia number one, India number two, South Africa number three. So that is about cricket. Paula says, in Scotland, the national sport is golf. Oh, yeah, okay. But she is not sure. Yeah, it's very possible. Golf is, of course, also a huge sport. And people make amazing money with that. All right. Oh, so I actually skipped a slide there. So, guys, I've got a question there. What sport would you love to try if you get the chance? So, I would say it can be any kind of physical activity. Maybe even skydiving can can be considered a sport. I wouldn't want to try it. I'm too scared. Um, but there are different kinds of sports that I want to try, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them now. Joanna, you are. We've got the same thinking there. I'm thinking the same thing. She says she wants to try surfing. Oh yeah, you got to come to South Africa for surfing. Um, so yeah, I would love to know what kind of sports you guys would love to try if you get the chance. Now, one sport that I would really love to play is ice hockey. South Africa doesn't have the weather for ice hockey, unfortunately. We don't. It's not cold enough. I believe Poland is. You guys can play ice hockey. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you've got an ice hockey association or federation there. We don't. It's too hot in South Africa, or it doesn't. The lakes don't freeze up, so we can't play outdoors. Now, who is a famous ice hockey player? I don't know much about ice hockey, so I had to search for this guy. His name is Wayne Gretzky, and I believe he's from Canada. Now, what? How can we explain ice hockey? It's a game where two teams play on skates, or they wear skates. The game is played on ice, and each team has six players. Not always, but sometimes, most of the time. And an interesting fact about hockey is it started or it originated in Canada in the 1800s. Some websites say it's like 1830, some websites say it's 1860. So I don't know the exact year, so I just wrote down in the 1800s. I've tried ice skating before. Oh, Joanna says we used to have a good team in the 80s. I think ski jumps are a big thing now. Yeah, ski jumping in the Winter Olympics. I wish we had like a winter sports in South Africa. That would be awesome. Skiing, snowboarding. I'm going to talk about snowboarding in a bit. So But yeah, ice skating is awesome. I've done ice skating before. We have an indoor ice skating place. I think they maybe play ice hockey there sometimes, but it's such a, how can I say? It's not very popular. It's not popular in South Africa. People don't know about it, but I would like to play it. Right. And here we get to snowboarding. Like I mentioned, it's something that I would really love to try. I've not been to a country where it's cold enough, where snowboarding is big. Um, but I love watching it on the Winter X Games. The X Games is like an extreme sports event every year, and they've got the Summer X Games, Summer Extreme Games, and the Winter Extreme Games. And snowboarding is also in the Winter Olympics now. And this girl that you see at the top, she's an iconic person in the world of snowboarding. Her name is Chloe Kim, and she is awesome because she was the youngest female snowboarder to win a gold medal in the Olympics, in the Winter Olympics. She was only 17, and she won the gold. That makes her the youngest woman to win a gold medal in snowboarding in the Winter Olympics. And since then, she has won another gold medal. So she's got 2 gold medals now. I'm cheering for her all the way. Uh, so yeah, that's something I would love to try out. If you guys have tried out snowboarding, please leave a comment. And the last one is surfing. Now, I mentioned surfing is very popular in South Africa, in my country. Uh, there are so many surfing spots in the capital city, Cape Town. There are surfing spots around Cape Town. There are towns called Hermanus. Um, there's a city called Jeffreys Bay. It's not in the Western Cape. It's in the Eastern Cape, the eastern part of South Africa. Jeffreys Bay is very popular with surfing. Durban is very popular with surfing. Joanna says in Portugal we have a place called Nazare. Am I pronouncing it correctly? They have 20-meter waves. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's scary. That's huge. I would love to see that. It's amazing to watch people surfing. I would so love to see that. Yeah, that's like I think I've seen documentaries or surfing videos where they go out on a boat and the surfer is holding on to like a jet ski or something, and they go really deep where there's like huge waves. Um, and that would be so awesome. I would be too scared to do it. I would just like try smaller waves in the shallow water. um, yeah, Joanna says yes, that's what they do here. Um, talking about big waves, Jeffreys Bay has big waves. I'm not sure if it's that big. Durban in South Africa has big waves. Um, Even some smaller towns near Cape Town on the coastline has big waves. Um, just to be clear, I've tried surfing before, but only a couple of times, and I can't stand up on the board. I'm not good at it. It really takes some getting used to. But it's so much fun just getting out in the water by yourself even, or with friends, it's just awesome. Now, an iconic person in the world of surfing is a guy called Kelly Slater. He's from America. You can see him at the top. Um, there are a few pictures of him, one nice black and white photo as well. And the photo in the top right corner is him. Who recognizes the old guy next to Kelly Slater? If I'll give you a minute, whoever can answer that question, Malgorzata, if you can answer, I think you might know who that is. I'll give it a minute. But yeah, Kelly Slater is a famous surfer. Something interesting about surfing is that it goes back all the way to ancient Hawaii. So that's like hundreds of years ago. I think when Hawaii was still undeveloped. However, surfing became popular in modern times as well, in California, in America, and there was like a lot of the American surfers went to Hawaii to learn there and to surf there, and it was first called wave sliding, which kind of makes sense because you're sliding around on the waves, kind of. So, Joanna says, "Can't see it. I'm on my phone, so I can't see clearly." Yes, Joanna, it is a singer. It's Willie Nelson. He's a country singer. That's why I included the picture, because it's so cool to see the surfer and Willie Nelson together. Just a random picture. Um, maybe me. Oh, you mean the surfer? No, that's not me. The country singer. Um, yes. So coming back to the origins of surfing, it was called wave sliding back in the day when it was first discovered. And a really interesting fact about surfing is surfers generally need to have a very big lung capacity. They need very strong lungs. So they need to be able to stay underwater for long times. And I've seen again on documentaries. I love watching surfing videos and documentaries. They practice sometimes underwater, holding big rocks, and they like very big rocks that keeps them under. So they run on the bottom of the sand underwater, under the ocean, which is crazy. And they practice like that, in order to be able to stay underwater for longer. Um, I've done some bodyboarding before. Bodyboarding is where you lay down on a different kind of board, not a surfboard. It's made for laying down on. It's much easier than surfing, of course, because you can kind of lay down. Um, but even some small waves can have a really strong impact and really put you under the water, put your head down under the water, and you kind of tumble around, go along with the wave. Um, so I can just imagine if a 20-meter wave crashes down on you, you're going to stay underwater for such a long time. And you're going to have to hold your breath for a really long time. According to uh, according to a website, some surfers can, or some big wave surfers can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes. I'm sure not everyone can do that, but they say some surfers can do it, which is really, really amazing. So me and Joanna, we had the same idea with surfing. It's something that I would really love to try again in the future. I would love to get better at it. I think it's something you need to practice often. And unfortunately, I don't live close to the ocean. Um, but that would be awesome to practice someday. So, right, guys, we're ending a little bit earlier today, it seems like. Um, that's it from me and my presentation about sports. For those of you guys who are going to see this video on the Facebook page, or please share it with your friends and all that good stuff. Like it, comment, and everything. And stay safe. Have a great weekend. Don't uh, don't do don't work too much. Try to take a rest, relax, and take care for now. Bye, guys.